Well, welcome back. Let's talk mortgage rates. The 30-year fixed rate mortgage increasing now to 6.52%. That's up from 6.28% this morning. This says home prices in July showed signs of cooling off at the fastest rate ever. The Case-Shiller Index report showing that the 20-city composite was up 16.1% since this time last year. Joining me right now is the Corcoran Group's president and CEO, Pamela Liebman. Pam, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks so much for being here. I want to get your take on what's most important in the market right now. What does that move in mortgage rates mean for home buyers?
Well, unfortunately, it means there's a lot less affordability out there in the market. And this is a market nationally that really saw such incredible price increases during the pandemic that it's a double whammy of expensive prices and expensive mortgages. So something's got to give.
So what about
Can't stay
sellers?
Like this forever.
I mean, we're talking this morning about how the market has cooled. How significant has the declines in prices been?
So it depends where you're looking. I think when we see some of these boom towns that really benefited during the pandemic with everybody rushing out there to buy, whether these were towns out west or in the Sun Belt, I think you see the most price correction there. I think in areas like New York City, you're seeing a lot less price correction. The inventory has not built in New York City the way it has in some other places. Nationally, inventory is up 26%. So if I'm a seller, I have a lot more houses to compete with to get mine sold. So I better make mine look more interesting. And a lot of ways people do that is by dropping their price.
Yeah, I mean, Redfin reported that home buyers in Sunbelt states, for example, are backing out of purchase contracts at a higher rate than anywhere else in the U.S. What are you seeing in terms of people backing out of contracts when they pretty much get sticker shock when they figure out their mortgage rate and their mortgage payments every month?
Yeah, these are scary numbers a little bit. You would never have expected this before because typically you wouldn't have the ability to back out of a contract. Nobody would give you a mortgage contingency when the market was on fire and just going up, up, up. But now that sellers are a little more desperate to get these deals done, they're offering these contract contingencies. And you may have applied for a mortgage 2 weeks ago, and now the cost is significantly more, and it just makes it unaffordable, and people will walk away. And I think also that a lot of the fun places to buy, whether it's in Vegas or Orlando or Montana, some of that is not so fun anymore because it's gotten a lot more expensive. And disposable income is not what it was because of the inflation all over the place. So a lot of people have taken themselves out of the market. But the good news is there's still lots and lots of people that are in the market, and rents are still very high.
Yeah, let's talk about rents for a second, because that's another sticker shock that people are getting. They see that their mortgage is going to be more expensive than they thought because of the mortgage rates moving higher. So they say, OK, I'm walking away. Let me go rent something. And then they're getting sticker shock in rent. Have we seen any cool off of rent?
Well, believe it or not, we are starting to see a little cool off. August is the busiest month for people to move. And so we had a little bit of an increase in August, but the smallest increase we've seen in 3 months. And vacancy rates are actually growing in certain cities, particularly like New York, where sometimes renters will just say enough is enough. I cannot afford to pay close to $5,000 for a one-bedroom apartment. Maybe I need to look somewhere else. So I think we will get some relief on rentals. At least I'm hopeful for that.
Do you think the U.S. is in a housing recession right now?
I don't think we're in a recession, Maria. I think everybody wants to judge the housing market based upon 2021, which was the craziest year in history. I think we're returning to a much more normal market. You'll still see statistics from NAR that'll show, I think over 4 million sales. I think normalcy is not a bad thing. We could not sustain what we had, and we want more people to be able to buy new homes, and we've got a whole new generation now that's getting ready to enter the market. So I think housing will be fine, and as Chairman Powell said, maybe a little more balanced.
Hi, Pamela. James Freeman at the Wall Street Journal. We were talking earlier about how this is a moment, looking at those rates, where people get tempted to go to an adjustable rate mortgage. Obviously works out great if inflation and rates go down from here. Not so great if that problem continues upward. So what do you counsel people who are telling you, I can't afford this place, I'm thinking about an ARM?
I think arms are a great solution for people if they're careful about it. We don't want to get into the situation that we got into way back in 2008, where people just overextended themselves. I think you have to plan for surprises. You have to plan, is your income growth happening? Will it match what the rate can go to? How often is that mortgage going to increase? You're taking a 7-year, a 3-year, a 10-year. You just really have to talk to somebody who can financially advise you whether an uptick in the rate is going to crush you financially.
Pam, have you seen people leave because of crime? What are you hearing from would-be buyers?
You know, I would have thought we'd see more of that happening, Maria. It does happen in cities like, I mean, we've seen what's happened in Chicago.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of companies saying we're moving to Florida and citing crime and taxes. You know, New York City, there's a lot of crime going on. There's a lot of people that still don't want to ride the subways. However, I applaud the people who are trying to get their workers back into the office, because I think that really helps the city to have lots more, typical commuters there every day, and not being so overrun by the homeless population and the crime that we're seeing out there on the streets and in the subway.
Pam, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks so much.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, Pamela Liebman joining us, Corcoran Group.